The sun hung low over the horizon, casting a golden hue over the sprawling estate nestled in the hills of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The air was thick with the scent of hibiscus and the faint saltiness of the Caribbean Sea. This was the home of the Laurent family, a name synonymous with wealth, power, and influence. The estate, a modern architectural marvel with hints of colonial elegance, was a testament to their success. It was a place where luxury was not just a lifestyle but a language spoken fluently by its inhabitants. At the heart of this opulent world were two people: Gabriel Laurent, a 45-year-old real estate mogul with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue, and his wife, Isabelle Laurent, a 42-year-old former model turned philanthropist. Their marriage, once the envy of Haiti's elite, was a carefully curated facade. Behind the polished smiles and lavish parties lay a relationship fraying at the edges, held together by habit and the weight of their shared history. Gabriel was a man of contradictions. He was charming and ruthless in equal measure, a trait that had served him well in business but had begun to erode the foundation of his marriage. His dark, brooding eyes and salt and pepper hair gave him an air of sophistication, but his temper was as volatile as the Caribbean storms that occasionally battered the island. Isabelle, on the other hand, was the picture of grace. Her caramel skin, high cheekbones, and piercing green eyes had made her a muse for photographers in her youth. Now, she channeled her beauty and charisma into her charity work, though her heart often felt hollow. Their love story had begun 2 decades ago, in the bustling streets of Paris. Gabriel, then a young entrepreneur with big dreams, had been captivated by Isabelle's ethereal beauty and fiery spirit. Their courtship had been a whirlwind of passion and promises, culminating in a fairy tale wedding that had made headlines. 4 years, they had been inseparable, building their empire and raising their daughter, Sophie, who was now a spirited 18-year-old studying abroad in New York. But time had a way of unraveling even the strongest bonds. The demands of Gabriel's business had pulled him away from home, leaving Isabelle to navigate the loneliness of their gilded cage. She had tried to fill the void with her charity work, but the emptiness lingered, a silent ache that no amount of money or accolades could soothe. Gabriel, too, had grown distant, his once tender affection replaced by cold indifference. They were two ships passing in the night, their connection reduced to polite conversations and the occasional shared meal. It was against this backdrop of simmering discontent that the seeds of betrayal were sown. Gabriel, ever the opportunist, had found solace in the arms of another woman. Her name was Camille Dubois, a 30-year-old interior designer with a penchant for danger and a smile that could melt steel. She was everything Isabelle was not: bold, reckless, and unapologetically ambitious. Their affair had begun innocently enough, with Gabriel hiring Camille to redesign his office. But what started as a professional relationship quickly escalated into something far more illicit. Camille was a master manipulator, her every move calculated to ensnare Gabriel. She flattered him, challenged him, and made him feel alive in a way he hadn't in years. Their encounters were passionate and clandestine, a secret they guarded fiercely. But secrets, no matter how well kept, have a way of coming to light. Isabelle had always been perceptive, a trait that had served her well in both her modeling career and her marriage. She had noticed the subtle changes in Gabriel's behavior: the late nights at the office, the unfamiliar scent of perfume on his clothes, the way he avoided her gaze. At first, she dismissed her suspicions as paranoia, a byproduct of their strained relationship. But as the weeks turned into months, the signs became impossible to ignore. It was a warm Tuesday evening when Isabelle's world came crashing down. Gabriel had left for yet another business meeting, leaving her alone in their sprawling estate. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the lively parties they used to host. Isabelle wandered aimlessly through the house, her mind racing. She found herself in Gabriel's study, a room she rarely entered. It was a masculine space, filled with leather-bound books, expensive cigars, and the faint scent of his cologne. As she ran her fingers over the polished mahogany desk, her eyes fell on his laptop. It was open, the screen glowing faintly in the dim light. Something compelled her to sit down and open it. She hesitated for a moment, torn between curiosity and guilt, but the need to know outweighed her reservations. The password was easy to guess: Sophie's birthday. Gabriel had always been predictable in that way. The screen came to life, revealing a series of open tabs. Isabel's heart pounded as she clicked on one, her breath catching in her throat. It was an email thread between Gabriel and Camille, filled with flirtatious banter and explicit details of their encounters. The words blurred before her eyes, but one phrase stood out: "I can't wait to see you tonight, my love." Isabel felt as though the ground had been ripped out from under her. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the messages, each one a dagger to her heart. The betrayal was suffocating, a weight that pressed down on her chest until she could barely breathe. She had always known that their marriage was far from perfect, but this was a wound too deep to ignore. Tears streamed down her face as she closed the laptop, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. She felt anger, sadness, and a burning desire for revenge. Gabriel had taken everything from her: her trust, her dignity, her love. And now, she would make him pay. Isabel spent the next few days in a haze, her emotions oscillating between despair and fury. She barely ate, barely slept, her mind consumed by the betrayal. But amidst the chaos, a plan began to take shape. A plan that would not only expose Gabriel's infidelity but also destroy him in the most humiliating way possible. She started by gathering evidence. Using Gabriel's laptop, she copied the incriminating emails and text messages, storing them on a USB drive. She also hired a private investigator to track Gabriel and Camille, documenting their every move. The investigator, a grizzled man named Jean-Claude, was discreet and efficient, providing Isabel with photos and videos of their clandestine meetings. Each piece of evidence was a dagger, sharpening her resolve. But Isabel knew that exposing the affair alone wouldn't be enough. She wanted to inflict pain, to make Gabriel feel the same anguish she had endured. And so, she began to weave a web of deceit, one that would ensnare both Gabriel and Camille. Her first move was to befriend Camille. It was a risky gambit, but Isabel was nothing if not resourceful. She reached out to Camille under the guise of hiring her for a charity event, praising her work and expressing a desire to collaborate. Camille, flattered and unsuspecting, agreed to meet. Their first meeting took place at a chic cafe in downtown Port-au-Prince. Isabel arrived early, dressed in a flowing white dress that accentuated her elegance. Camille, on the other hand, was a vision of youthful exuberance, her dark curls cascading over her shoulders, her lips painted a bold red. They exchanged pleasantries, their conversation light and superficial. But beneath the surface, Isabel was studying Camille, noting her every gesture, every word. Over the next few weeks, their meetings became more frequent. Isabel played the role of the gracious hostess, inviting Camille to the estate for lunch, showering her with compliments, and subtly probing for information. Camille, intoxicated by Isabel's charm, began to let her guard down. She spoke freely about her work, her ambitions, and, most importantly, her relationship with Gabriel. Isabel listened intently, her smile never wavering. She learned that Camille saw Gabriel as a means to an end, a stepping stone to greater success. She didn't love him, she loved what he could give her. This revelation fueled Isabel's determination. She would use Camille's greed against her, turning her into a pawn in her game of revenge. Isabel's plan required her to step out of her comfort zone, to embrace a side of herself she had long suppressed. She began to transform her appearance, trading her conservative wardrobe for more daring outfits. She dyed her hair a rich auburn, accentuating her green eyes, and adopted a more assertive demeanor. The change was subtle but effective, catching Gabriel's attention. One evening, As they sat across from each other at dinner, Gabriel remarked on her new look. "You've been different lately," he said, his tone laced with curiosity. "More vibrant." Isabel smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that sent a shiver down his spine. "I've realized life is too short to play it safe," she replied, her voice low and sultry. "Don't you agree?" Gabriel's eyes darkened with desire, a reaction Isabel noted with satisfaction. She had always known how to captivate him, and now she would use that power to her advantage. Over the next few weeks, she began to flirt with him, her touches lingering, her words laced with innuendo. Gabriel, oblivious to her true intentions, was drawn back into her orbit, his affair with Camille momentarily forgotten. But Isabel's seduction wasn't solely for Gabriel's benefit. She also began to subtly manipulate Camille, planting seeds of doubt about Gabriel's loyalty. During one of their lunches, she casually mentioned how Gabriel had been spending more time at home, how he seemed more attentive. Camille's smile faltered, a flicker of insecurity crossing her face. "He's probably just feeling guilty," Camille said, though her tone lacked conviction. Isabel shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "Perhaps. But men like Gabriel are easily distracted. One moment they're yours, the next." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Camille's jaw tightened, her pride wounded. Isabel knew she had struck a nerve. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and it was only a matter of time before they bore fruit. The final stage of Isabel's plan required precision and timing. She waited until Gabriel was scheduled to attend a business conference in Miami, a trip he had mentioned in passing. She also knew that Camille had a design presentation in New York around the same time. It was the perfect opportunity to set her trap. The night before Gabriel's departure, Isabel suggested they have a quiet dinner at home. She prepared his favorite meal, a decadent lobster bisque, and opened a bottle of expensive wine. The atmosphere was intimate, the soft glow of candlelight casting shadows on the walls. Gabriel, relaxed and unsuspecting, was in high spirits. As the evening progressed, Isabel's flirtation became more overt. She leaned in close, her breath warm against his ear as she whispered, "I've missed this. Missed us." Gabriel's resolve crumbled. He pulled her into his arms, his lips crashing against hers with a hunger that had been absent for years. Isabel allowed herself to be swept up in the moment, her mind focused on the endgame. The next morning, Gabriel left for Miami, his suitcase packed and his mind clouded with thoughts of Isabel. But what he didn't know was that Isabel had planted a tracking device in his luggage, a gift from Jean-Claude. She monitored his movements, waiting for the right moment to strike. 2 days into his trip, Gabriel received a message from Camille. She had cancelled her presentation in New York and was flying to Miami to surprise him. Gabriel, torn between guilt and desire, agreed to meet her. What he didn't know was that Isabel had orchestrated the entire thing, using a fake account to lure Camille to Miami. As Gabriel and Camille reunited in a luxurious hotel suite, Isabel watched from afar, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. She waited until they were at their most vulnerable, their passion at its peak, before making her move. Isabel had planned every detail meticulously. She knew Gabriel and Camille would be staying at the Fontainebleau Miami Beach, a hotel known for its opulence and discretion. Using her connections, she secured access to the hotel's security footage and even bribed a staff member to provide her with a master keycard to their suite. She arrived in Miami on a private jet, her heart racing with a mixture of rage and determination. The night of the confrontation, Isabel dressed in a sleek black dress that hugged her figure, her hair styled to perfection. She looked every bit the scorned queen ready to reclaim her throne. As she approached the hotel suite, her heels clicked against the marble floor, each step echoing her resolve. She paused outside the door, taking a deep breath before sliding the keycard into the lock. The door opened silently, revealing a scene that made Isabel's blood boil. Gabriel and Camille were entangled on the plush sofa, their laughter filling the room. The air was thick with the scent of champagne and betrayal. Isabel stood in the doorway, her presence unnoticed until she cleared her throat. Gabriel froze, his eyes widening in shock as he turned to face her. "Isabel? What the hell are you doing here?" Camille, equally stunned, scrambled to cover herself, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Isabel, this isn't what it looks like," she stammered, though the lie was feeble. Isabel stepped into the room, her gaze cold and unyielding. "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like," she said, her voice dripping with venom. She held up her phone, displaying the photos and videos Jean-Claude had provided. "I've been watching you both for weeks. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Gabriel's face turned pale, his usual confidence shattered. "Isabel, please. Let's talk about this." "Talk." Isabel laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You've been lying to me for months, Gabriel. You've humiliated me, betrayed our family. There's nothing left to talk about." Camille, realizing the gravity of the situation, tried to salvage her dignity. "This was a mistake," she said, her voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt you." Isabel turned to her, her eyes blazing with fury. "You're a parasite, Camille. You prey on men like Gabriel, using them for your own gain. But you've made a fatal mistake. You underestimated me." With that, Isabel pressed a button on her phone, and the room's television screen flickered to life. The screen displayed a live feed of the hotel's lobby, where a crowd had gathered. Among them were journalists, photographers, and even some of Gabriel's business associates. They had been invited under the guise of a surprise party, but the real surprise was about to unfold. Gabriel's face drained of color as he realized what was happening. "Isabel, what have you done?" "I've ensured that everyone will know the truth," she replied, her voice steady. "You've spent years building your reputation, Gabriel. Now watch it crumble." The next few hours were a blur of chaos and humiliation. The journalists, tipped off by Isabel, swarmed the suite, their cameras flashing as they captured every moment of Gabriel and Camille's disgrace. The photos and videos spread like wildfire, dominating the headlines and social media feeds. Gabriel's carefully constructed image was shattered, his infidelity exposed for the world to see. Camille, desperate to escape the scandal, fled the hotel, but there was no escaping the fallout. Her career was in ruins, her reputation tarnished beyond repair. She became a pariah, shunned by the very circles she had worked so hard to infiltrate. Gabriel, meanwhile, was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life. His business partners distanced themselves, fearing the association with scandal. His once thriving empire began to crumble under the weight of bad publicity and lost trust. But the most devastating blow came from Sophie, who called him from New York, her voice trembling with anger and disappointment. "How could you do this to us, Dad?" she cried. "To Mom? I thought you were better than this." Gabriel had no answer, no defense. He had lost everything: his family, his reputation, his self-respect. And as he sat alone in the empty suite, the weight of his actions pressed down on him, a burden too heavy to bear. Isabel returned to Haiti, her heart heavy but her spirit unbroken. She had exacted her revenge, but the victory felt hollow. The life she had known was gone, replaced by an uncertain future. Yet, amidst the wreckage, she found a sense of liberation. She had reclaimed her power, her agency, and for the first time in years, she felt free. She filed for divorce, ensuring that she received a substantial settlement. She also took control of several of Gabriel's assets, using them to expand her charity work. She channeled her pain into purpose, becoming a beacon of strength and resilience for others. Gabriel, stripped of his wealth and status, retreated from public life. He tried to reach out to Isabel, to apologize, to beg for forgiveness, but she refused to see him. She had closed that chapter of her life, determined to move forward on her own terms. As for Camille, she disappeared into obscurity, her dreams of fame and fortune reduced to ashes. She became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of ambition and deceit. Months passed, and the scandal began to fade from memory. Isabelle, now a single woman, focused on rebuilding her life. She traveled, explored new passions, and reconnected with old friends. She even began to date again, though she took her time, wary of repeating past mistakes. One evening, as she stood on the balcony of her estate, watching the sun set over the Caribbean Sea, she felt a sense of peace. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it no longer defined her. She had emerged from the ashes, stronger and more resilient than ever. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Isabelle smiled, knowing that her story was far from over. She had faced the storm and come out the other side, ready to embrace whatever the future held.